In the life and death of a star, size definitely matters.
Mass is the fundamental thing which drives the life history of a star.
The more massive stars live much shorter lives than the less massive stars. And that's perhaps a little bit strange sounding, because the massive stars have more fuel to burn. You'd think they'd live longer.
So it's counterintuitive that more massive stars will burn through their fuel more quickly than the lower mass stars.
Imagine two gamblers sitting down at a blackjack table. You would expect the one with the most money, the most fuel to burn, would last the longest. But what if the big-time gambler is making huge bets on every hand?
A gambler that is gambling with a lot more money and putting down $10,000 at a time is going to burn through that money much more quickly. And so the more mass you have, the higher temperature, the higher pressure, the higher the fusion rate. And it goes much more quickly with the more mass you have.
And it's always just simply the calculation. How much fuel do you have, and at what rate are you converting it? The high-mass stars live their lives faster. They burn the candle at both ends. It's life in the fast lane. A high-mass star could die within 1 million years.
A star 10 times as massive as our sun might live for only 1/1000th as long. So our sun will live for about 10 billion years in total. A star 10 times as massive as our sun might live only 10 million years in total.
While massive stars have lifespans measured in millions of years, the lowest mass stars measure their lives in tens of billions, if not trillions of years.
Every low-mass star that has ever been born in the universe, and the universe has been making stars for more than 10 billion years, all of those stars are still in their infancy. No such star that's ever been born has ever come close to dying.
But for all stars, including our own sun, life on the main sequence can't go on forever. It can only last as long as the star has fuel to burn. If it runs out of fuel, fusion stops and gravity wins.
Gravity never gives up, whereas fuel, of course, can run out after a while. And so the star and the climber both have this terrible problem that if they don't maintain their fight against gravity, they will end in a death, a cataclysmic death.
Not only does the size of a star influence how long it will live, it also determines how it will die. Massive stars explode from the scene in violent fury, while smaller ones are doomed to slowly fade away. For 5 billion years, our sun, a lower mass, middle-aged star, has been happily burning through its supply of hydrogen fuel, like a gambler slowly plowing through a pile of chips.
The gambler may sit there for a long period of time, just like a star burns its hydrogen for a really long period of time. However, at some point, she's going to run out of money.
Scientists predict that 5 billion years in the future, our sun will reach this critical crossroads. Its supply of hydrogen fuel will have been completely exhausted. Nuclear fusion will cease, and gravity will begin to crush the star. At that point, the situation is desperate. In order to survive, a sun-like star must find a new source of fuel. It has helium on hand, but in order to start burning helium, the core has to be 10 times hotter than it was during its lifetime burning hydrogen.
It won't be able to fuse that helium into heavier elements like carbon and oxygen until the core gets sufficiently hot. And that's because it's harder to get the helium nuclei close enough together for the strong nuclear force to take over, grab them, and cause them to fuse together.
As it continues to contract inward, nature throws the star a lifeline. The core actually becomes superheated by the very gravitational pressure that's trying to crush it. When it reaches 180 million degrees, it can start fusing helium into carbon in a desperate gamble to survive.
So the desperate gambler might go take out a loan on their house and get more money. But in getting more money to burn through, it's really just delaying the inevitable, which is to go bust. And for a star, the inevitable is to die.
The star, which took 10 billion years to burn through its hydrogen, now powers through its supply of helium in a mere 100 million years.
And then the action begins. It runs out of hydrogen, starts fusing helium. Runs out of helium, attempts to fuse carbon and will fail. But all the action, all the, well, what's going on now, happens in the last 10% of a star's life.
The searing heat of the helium burning actually causes the outer layers of the star to swell.
At that point, the outer atmosphere of our star will be held in by gravity so weakly that it'll start sort of just evaporating away. Through a series of what I call cosmic burps, it will actually eject the outer envelope of gases, which are only weakly held by gravity. That'll send some shells of gas outward, illuminated by the hot central star. And that will cause what's called the planetary nebula phenomenon. Beautiful shells of glowing gas surrounding the dying core of our sun.
With the core unable to muster any more nuclear fusion, can it possibly survive gravity's crushing grip? As a star the size of our sun dies, it ejects its outer layers. With no nuclear reactions to generate outward pressure, gravity gains the upper hand. The star begins to fall in on itself, like a climber too tired to hold on to his rope.
There's one possibility that the rock climber might be able to use if he gets too tired to hold on to the rope anymore, and that is if he can find a ledge on the rock that he's climbing. Gravity can pull on him all he wants, but the ledge itself will support him against gravity, and he doesn't have to provide any more energy to win his fight. There's a certain kind of star, and our sun is actually an example of this, where the star finds that it has an out in this fight against gravity.
The contracting star finds its ledge in a surprising place: electrons, tiny negatively charged atomic particles.
Electrons don't like being compressed so that they're very close to one another, because electrons effectively don't like each other.
If you compact the electrons hard enough, the pressure of the electrons themselves is able to hold up the star against gravity.
When the core of our dying sun-like star is crushed to about the size of the Earth, this so-called electron degeneracy pressure takes over. Gravity can collapse the star no further. It's left to slowly cool into a bizarre stellar remnant known as a white dwarf. Like this one, Sirius B, which can be seen only faintly aside its companion, Sirius, the brightest star in our sky.